Limitless AI just entered the hardware arena with a product priced under $100. This is a game on moment for big companies like Apple and a huge middle finger to other upstarts like Humane AI. A lot is going on here, so let's unpack it. Before I begin, I would like to remind you that the opinions expressed here are solely my own and do not represent any of the views of the companies mentioned. This show is solely for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered investment advice. Alright, Limitless AI. Before we even talk about the product, it's worth highlighting the fundraising story behind this company. From what I can gather online, Rewind, which is what the company was previously called, first raised $10 million at a $75 million valuation from Andreessen Horowitz, and then later raised an additional $15 or so million, led by NEA at a ludicrous $350 million valuation. This is largely before they even had a product in market, which is pretty wild. This was during a time when private valuations were enjoying what can only be described as a big speculative bubble bath. Valuations in these early stages are more about future promises than present profits, so to value the company at $350 million means this team needs to earn some serious cheddar to justify that valuation and avoid becoming a zombie company. So with that bit of context setting, I have to admit, for full transparency, I did place a chip on this one myself, knowing that it was a wild bet that I would probably lose, but I was also curious what drew heavyweights like Andreessen and NEA to invest at such high valuations, given these are two of the most reputable venture firms in the world, which for the record is exactly the kind of stupid FOMO behavior that is the definition of a bubble. So to help me justify my own decision here, this is what I came up with. What Dan and his team first brought to market is a personalized AI powered by everything you've seen, said, or heard. What this looked like in practice was a web app that transcribes everything spoken, seen, or seen on screen and tags it so that you can go back in your history to discover stuff you might have otherwise missed or forgotten. Useful for sure, but behind this MVP, I think we can all agree that the real vision was, and probably still is, to recreate a product somewhat similar to that outlined in the Black Mirror episode, The Entire History of You, which didn't end well for the character, but if it were to be real, would likely have made the VCs incredibly rich. So I personally invested about enough to pay for Dan's morning coffees for the next year in what I figured was a front row seat to watching a real life sci-fi drama unfold. While on the surface this is just another piece of useful software, the potential implications if you extrapolate this out are somewhat huge, which brings me to their latest release, the Limitless AI Pendant. Now, it doesn't take $35 million to build an AI web app, so the question was always, what are they going to do with that money? And now we know. The very first version of this product that surfaced online looked more like a chain people wear to carry their dead dad's ashes, and given that it remembers everything from the past, that might have been a creepy little Easter egg. But it was undoubtedly wise to move away from that form factor, and instead they designed a delightful little clip that attaches to your t-shirt and tracks everything you and others say and summarizes it for you so you can consume it at a later date. Ideal for innovators trying to retain shower thoughts, not so good for single dudes trying to forget what they said last night. The video and design itself is a shameless mimicking of Apple's design ethos right down to the marketing speak, with expressions like 16 millimeters thin, which may as well be patented Apple verbiage for how they like to promote their products. This might be intentional. After all, a couple big boy billies is chump change for Apple. Swap out the logo and give that thing a Mr. Majansky software refresh, and come September they could have a
there is one more thing.
And at $100, who isn't going to give this thing a try? I can only assume that much like Amazon Alexa and Google Home, they're likely operating at a break-even or even a loss on the hardware and banking on subscriptions and data access to drive profits. For the record, Limitless claims they have no access to your data, but I'd put my money on there being some small print there, because in the battle for AI supremacy, proprietary datasets are the key to the kingdom, and what could possibly be more valuable than everything millions of people have seen, said, or heard? Another thing that makes this a smart move is that they've said they will open this up to developers to build apps on the platform. What makes that an attractive prospect for developers? Reach. And what gives you reach? Not pricing the product at $700, that's what. As I said at the very start, Limitless AI has certainly put itself in a precarious situation by valuing the company at such an astronomical valuation. But if nothing else, what this means is they have to swing for the fences if they have any chance of survival. And that is exactly what the startup ecosystem is all about. I personally love a good shit or bust story, the most notable one of recent years being Quibi. Quibi bet the house on short form content and built what was probably the most delightful app of recent years from a UI perspective, and then quickly shit the bed and went down in flames. I don't see this as a bad thing. Personally, it's better to go all in, and if you hit, you're in with a good chance of winning, but if you miss, you're in bed before midnight. So all this to say, Limitless AI represents one of the most intriguing bets in today's tech landscape. I'm very excited to see where they head next, and I will definitely keep you updated. But that's my take. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. A reminder, if you're interested in investing in startups, you can invest alongside me by Googling Ricky Richards Syndicate or clicking on the link in the show notes to learn more. If you're the founder of a US-based startup and you're looking for capital or to be featured on the show, you can visit my website, rickyrichards.com, to email me directly. For everything non-startup related, you can find me on Instagram. And finally, anything I've mentioned in today's show, along with links to our sponsors, will be listed in the show notes. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like and subscribe. And thank you to Adam Shaw, our editor, as well as Record ATX for hosting the show. This was Risk and Reward. I'm Ricky Richards. See you next week.